Freeze drying Starburst has been a tricky candy to freeze dry for a lot of us who own freeze drying businesses, but I got it to work and I'm going to show you how I did it in this video. The Starburst candy has been a little bit tricky and inconsistent for a lot of people who have tried freeze drying Starburst. And the reason being is because even if you freeze dry the Starburst like any normal candy like Skittles or taffy, things like that, and you just put it into the freeze dryer at a high temperature, it just doesn't pop and it becomes too hard and too crunchy, and it just doesn't really change the airy texture that we all know and love and why freeze-dried candy has been so popular. Now there's two methods to do freeze-dried Starburst. There's either using just the freeze dryer settings alone. If you have a Harvest Right freeze dryer or other freeze dryers, you just put it to a high temperature mode and freeze dry it for 2 to 3 hours. Now the other method is to not use the freeze dryer settings to soften up the candies, because candy mode on the Harvest Right freeze dryers only goes up to 150 degrees. So you're gonna need to use an oven to get it to soften up enough to where it's almost kind of melting, and then transfer all the candies in the trays to the freeze dryer at that 150 degrees. And then it becomes a lot more airy and crunchy and actually becomes a better freeze-dried Starburst candy. I'm not gonna bore you with unwrapping every single individual Starburst and having you watch that, but I am just gonna show you what bag I'm using. This is a 3-pound bag that I bought in bulk from a wholesale type of store. And so you could buy these probably at Costco or any type of wholesale distributor. I'm gonna see how long this takes to unwrap, and that way you have a good idea of what the labor looks like going into freeze-drying Starburst as a candy for your business. All right, I finished unwrapping the Starburst, and this is 65 individual Starburst. 8 minutes to unwrap 65 Starburst. Now you take 8 times the 5 trays, that's 40 minutes of labor just unwrapping all these Starbursts. This is pretty tedious, I'm not gonna lie. These little candies with the wrapper, it's really not that easy to unwrap. You have to peel it apart. Even if I had gloves on at my commercial kitchen, you know, it just wouldn't be very fast and effective. And so just thinking about that, I have to do 5 more trays after this. It might be worth it to you if, you know, you have your kids or you have family or friends or even workers that this is literally what they do on a downtime and just watch Netflix or watch a movie or something like that. But there's not really any easy way to do this other than maybe buying the freeze-dried Starburst minis. Those ones I know you can just kind of open the bag and toss in there. There's no wrapper. So that might be the better option than doing these larger Starburst. But let's go ahead and put this into the freeze dryer and then we'll see what it turns out with the freeze drying process. Now, if you're not a subscriber already, hit the subscribe bell and you'll be notified of new videos that I come out with about freeze drying as a business. There's other ways to connect too. You can go to freezedrybusiness.com. The link is in the channel description as well as this video description. And I've been building my website out so that I can provide more and more value and content for you related to freeze drying. I've also got a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to that I'll be coming out to bring you more and more value for the freeze drying business community. All right, so if you have a Harvest Right freeze dryer, this is what the screen looks like right now. And what you can do is you can put it in candy mode if you have the version 5.0 or higher. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna press this customize button where you get this menu here and it says dry mode fast. We wanna keep that there. And to reach candy mode, you literally are just gonna go over to the dry temp and you're gonna increase it to 135 degrees, and then it populates and says you're at the candy high mode temperature, which is perfect. Now for Starburst, I'm gonna go up to 150 degrees, which is the max that you can go up to. And then what I'm gonna do on the dry time is I'm gonna just go to 3 hours. And I think that that is going to give me enough time to see whether it's gonna melt and make it soft. All right, so now that we've got it saved, we're gonna press start. And that's gonna start the freeze dryer to cool the vacuum chamber for 15 minutes. And then after that 15 minutes, then we can hit the candy mode option, and then we can start the freeze dryer to warm the trays. I'm calling an audible right now since I'm in my home on this video, and because I'm in my home and because I wanna see what the differences are between using an oven and the freeze dryer, I'm going to put this tray with a couple of these Starburst into the oven at 200 degrees and soften them up, and I'm gonna do 15 minutes of 200 degree tray warming in the oven for this tray. And so once we reach that 15-minute mark, I'm gonna transfer this tray into the freeze dryer, and that way there's about 5 minutes left of tray warming. Then it's gonna kick on the candy mode, and we're gonna see what freeze drying Starburst all turns out from doing the freeze dryer settings and just doing it from the oven transferring it to the freeze dryer. I'm excited. I feel like a Peyton Manning right now calling an audible. So I'm glad I am doing this, and I'm glad we're gonna see which one actually makes the best freeze-dried candy using different methods. So let's see how it all turns out. So once it's done with the preheating and it hits 200 degrees, I'm gonna make sure that I hit my phone for 10 minutes on 200, and then we'll get the tray out and transfer it over to the freeze dryer. All right, so it's already starting to melt. As you can see, I'm gonna open this up. See how it's already melting? So I don't even know if we really need to do much longer. All right, so I'm gonna take this out. I'm actually gonna put this one in the freeze dryer right now, but I'm gonna do another tray, and I'm gonna do it for maybe like a minute and see if it softens it up just a little bit more so it's not just puddles like this. And that way we can see what types of time frame in the oven actually compares to how much it softens it up. All right, now that we know that 200 degrees softens it up really fast and it creates more puddles, I don't want it to be more flat. I want it to be kind of stayed intact to these types of shapes. So I'm gonna see maybe 30 seconds to a minute of 200 degrees does in the oven, and then pull it out and put it into the freeze dryer. All right, so let's set a timer and actually see how long it takes for these to soften up, just standing right here. All right, it's been about 2 minutes now, so I'm gonna open this up and see if I can just check with my finger on how soft it is. All right, it's definitely getting a little bit softer. I kind of like that. See how I'm squishing it? I don't know if you can see that. I'm squishing in. I'm gonna leave it in there for maybe another minute now. It's been 2.5 minutes. So I'm gonna see what another minute entails. All right, it's been a minute. Now that's 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm gonna take these out and put it in the freeze dryer, and then we'll see how those trays compare for the ones that kind of flatten out as a puddle, that we ran it a little bit too long, I think, and then what these will look like because they still have the kind of intact Starburst square look. So 3 minutes and 45 seconds actually. Stop the clock, and let's put it in the freeze dryer. Hey, as we wait for the Starburst to freeze dry, I want to invite you to take a look at the video description below, where I've included several other videos about freeze drying candy, freeze drying fruit, other aspects of freeze drying as a business. If you're just starting out and you're wondering what type of freeze dryer to buy, you can take a look at my video below about the Harvest Right freeze dryers. I've owned this freeze dryer since I started my freeze drying business, and I really like their support, their machines, the different sizes, and they always have great specials. And I'm a big fan of Harvest Right. I'm also an affiliate of them, so if you use the link below, it all goes back to supporting this channel and making sure that I'm providing more and more content for you. So I appreciate any of the referrals. All right, let's get back to the freeze dryer and see how the Starburst turned out. All right, freeze drying process is done. Let's go ahead and take these bad boys out. Looks like it turned out great. All right, here is the freeze dried Starburst. Look how this turned out. Puffed out perfectly. I'm actually really surprised because I really didn't know what to expect. I expected some of them to pop and some of them not to. But man, look at this. So this is the tray that we did not use the oven to do, but we just warmed the trays for 15 minutes at 150 degrees and then ran it for 2.5 to 3 hours at 150. Look at that. Now we're gonna do a taste test and see how that is, but let's just take one like this and let's see how it crunches. Wow. That's awesome. That's super crunchy, a lot better than the ones that I've tried that made the mistake of. Okay, now here's this particular tray. Now this one we did at 200 degrees in the oven, but we only did it for about 3.5 minutes or so, if you recall. And this is the one that crunched up. So look how big these turned out. And wow, so that crunched up into a powder, kind of like a Jolly Rancher. That's awesome. And this was the tray that we did at 200 degrees for about 5 minutes, but then I realized it was turning into a saucer, and so I took it out immediately. But look at this. This is awesome. These definitely are super crunchy. We'll do a taste test of these. But this kind of makes me think that maybe we should cut these up into either halves or quarters, and then they turn out to be a little bit smaller so we can put them in bags. All right, we got to do a taste test. Now I'm going to do the ones that we did just with the freeze dryer settings. I'm going to do the taste test on these ones right here. It's the same type of texture that you're going to get like from a Jolly Rancher. This is awesome. Wow, I'm so glad I actually tried Starburst again. This is the one that we softened up at 200 degrees in the oven and then stuck it in the freeze dryer at 150 degrees. Oh my gosh, that is really good. That is so much more airy and delicate too. Wow. Wow, I'm super tickled that the Starburst actually worked. I'm really surprised, but I'm also really thankful that I tried this again. It goes to show that you just gotta keep experimenting with your freeze dryer. Now don't stop here. I've got another video that I'm showing right now in the thumbnails. It's how to freeze dry caramel M&Ms and Skittles. It's my favorite and it's the easiest candies you can freeze dry. Check out those videos. We'll see you there.